Broncos country feeling good on a Monday. Finally, it has been a long time since we have had this feeling. Hello, everyone. Welcome inside Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Glad to have you with us, and glad to have you with us on a Victory Monday as the Broncos snap their four-game losing streak, courtesy of a 21-17 win over Jacksonville on Sunday in London. B. Marsh, man, how good does that feel for Broncos country right now to be heading into the bye week? And we're not talking about firing a head coach. We're not talking about a 5-game losing streak. It's nice to have a win.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, look, it's always great to have a win no matter what, no matter against who. You know, it's always great to have a win. The monkey kind of got off the guy's back, after that losing streak. So, they feel great. It's a Victory Monday. So, hopefully they head into the bye, get a little healthier, and get their minds on right.
That being said, let's jump into What's on Marshall's Mind today. What's on Marshall's Mind brought to you by Breckenridge Distillery, the official bourbon of the Denver Broncos. Shop Colorado retailers for their limited edition Broncos bourbon blends. B. Marsh, what's on your mind today on a Victory Monday?
It's a Victory Monday. It's cause for celebration, but the needle didn't move for me on Nathaniel Hackett, his situation, his competency as a head coach. His ceiling actually as a head coach. I know we're 7 games in, but at the same time, I'm not feeling encouraged. So I'm not sure about you, Mike. And I'm not sure about the rest of Broncos country. I know Broncos country are real optimists at times, but I'm not encouraged at all.
B. Marsh, I am so glad to hear you say that, because I started my final word last night on All Access by saying I don't want to rain on anybody's parade. So let's put this win into perspective, right? They beat a bad Jacksonville team, okay? That Jacksonville team was also on a 4-game losing streak. They also only had 2 wins this season. I think the team has been so bad over the last couple of years, and Broncos country is so starved for victories at this point, that they look at this game and they see an offense that scored 3 touchdowns. And it's like, hallelujah, finally. And I get that, because 3 touchdowns for this team is a big deal. But in the grand scheme of things, I am totally with you. I don't know that I saw a lot in that game on Sunday that made me feel like this team is ready to turn the corner or is ready to make the steps that we thought they were going to make at the beginning of this year. Yes, a win is a win, and you take it, and it's great that they got it, especially heading into the bye week. But Brandon, I look at this team, and they committed 12 penalties for 81 yards. That is still a problem. They were 2 of 11 on 3rd down. That is still a problem. Yes, they got some things going on a couple different drives, but overall, if that were any other team, and we've said this before, we said this after the Texans win, if that were any other team, maybe 28 other teams in the NFL, that might have ended up being a loss. So I hate to be the Debbie Downer today, but I appreciate the realistic aspect of what we saw yesterday, and not all of a sudden feeling like this team has turned a corner. And what I said last night, don't book your postseason tickets just yet, because I still feel like there's a long way to go here.
Yeah, look, don't book your postseason tickets just yet. You might want to book your Cancun tickets, though. Top of January, the team will probably be in Cancun, and so will I. Just based off how they look. The first quarter looked bad. It wasn't pretty. Now they ended up getting it together, right? And that's all that matters. They ended up getting together. But when we talk about the grand scheme of things, and we don't want to be Debbie Downers, but I think we could look at the whole scope, the whole picture of the NFL, and see where the Broncos fit. Mm-hmm. And they don't fit in the top 10 teams, even top 15, to be honest with you. So it's kind of tough for us to sit here, even on a Victory Monday, and sing Broncos praises, sing Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett's praises. We'll continue to sing the defensive praises as long as they continue to, play at the high level that they're playing, top 3 defense in the league. They play, fantastic size the run, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that.
Yeah, but, other than that, it's tough to see a high ceiling for this 2022 Broncos team. They have talent, right? But it's things aren't clicking offensively. The offensive line doesn't look stellar. They're missing Javonte Williams. I think they're really missing him. The bell cow. The guy can do it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they're missing him as well. So it's tough, but I'm gonna try to take an optimistic approach right now in this moment. They were 2 for 3 on 4th down.
Right. Right, and 3 for 3 inside the red zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's an issue where they have had some real struggles. They were last in the league at 23% entering yesterday's game, and then they go 3 for 3 inside the red zone. So, Brandon, that being said, what did you see in that win over Jacksonville that you want the Broncos offense to kind of key in on? Because there were some nice things. There were some nice plays. So what did you see that you want them to spend time on during the bye week to say, okay, hey, look, here's what we need to do moving forward, even though we know that the outlook probably doesn't change a whole bunch. But there were certainly some positive things that I saw yesterday where I feel like, okay, here's some things that we need to do or that they should do in order to continue and at least make a little bit of progress on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I think, man, move the pocket. Get Russell Wilson out of the pocket, man. He's electric when he's on the move. He's electric with his legs, his arm. I love, I just keep referring back to when I used to play, against Russell, man. And whenever he moved out the pocket, it was dangerous. Scramble drill during practice week was crazy because we knew what could happen when the guy was on the move. So I think they continue to move. They need to continue to move the pocket, get Russ on these rollouts, on boots. Move him, make him more comfortable. Honestly, they probably need to watch some Seattle Seahawks film, okay, and run whatever they're running with Geno Smith because whatever they're doing, it's working. You know what I'm saying? So, but at the end of the day, Latavius Murray, Melvin Gordon, they got to continue to have that duo on the backfield. They didn't average a lot, yards per carry yesterday, but we got to get the run game going. And we could be creative with some things that we're doing. Nathaniel Hackett can be more creative. Hopefully, he's getting some more input from his other coaches and not just himself. And there's some other things we can do.
Well, I think you make a good point there because you need to continue to run the football because we don't know what's going to happen with Lloyd Cushenberry. We'll find out kind of later in the week, right? But you lose your starting center. You're already down your starting left tackle in Garrett Bowles. You've already got a swing guy at right tackle in Billy Turner who missed the first couple of games this season. I think it is really important for this Broncos offense to be able to run the football because that makes things easier for your offensive line. And what we saw yesterday is that when they are in passing situations, that can spell trouble because the defense can pin their ears back and get after Russell Wilson. I thought the other thing that we saw was part of the reason they were so effective. Everybody talked about the tempo, right? And the tempo and the play calling and the tempo and getting up to the line and calling the next play. I also thought the tempo and Russell Wilson getting the ball out of his hand was really important. And he started to look for other guys other than Courtland Sutton, right? I mean, he starts the game and the only thing that he is locked in on is number 14. Well, what happens? Everybody in the world knows Russell Wilson is looking at Courtland Sutton. Then all of a sudden he starts to get KJ Hamler involved and Jerry Jeudy and Greg Dulcich. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, finally all these offensive weapons that the Broncos have, you're actually seeing them be used.
Yeah, let's not forget about Greg Dulcich because, and look, the guy, first of all, he came in and he looks stellar. He looks like he has an incredibly high ceiling. I'm excited to see his growth because his potential is crazy. But, when your offense isn't clicking, like it should, you have to do different things. You have to, try to tempo the defense, maybe run a couple gimmicks. You have to do different things because if you can't just beat somebody straight up, that's when you do things. On defensive side, if you can't beat somebody, you got to stunt the front, you got to move, you got to disguise, you got to do different things. So offensively, we haven't been able to just line up and beat somebody because we're not that team, right? We're not that offensive, unfortunately. So that's why you see the tempo, and that's why you see different things. You have to do that to get the defense on their heels, or else, like you said, they're going to pin their ears back on third down, and we'll be 2 for 11 again.
From a tempo perspective, Brandon, talk about that as a defender. What happens to you guys on defense when the other team starts to go with some tempo like we saw. Because we heard from Greg Dulcich, we heard from Russell Wilson, we heard from Nathaniel Hackett. They all mentioned, the tempo. KJ Hamler even talked about it too. The tempo on the offense really kind of helped them get rolling. So on the other side of that, what kind of stress does that put on the opposing defense?
Well, I mean, the defense gets tired. I mean that's the first and foremost. The D line gets tired. They can't rush as effectively or with as much intensity. The defensive coordinator can't necessarily get whatever play call he wants to get in. So you got to have an automatic call. We had an automatic call when I was playing, and we had Wade Phillips. If they rush to the line, we got to call dollar. We just got to call cover 4. So you can't get your blitzes in. You can't switch out personnel. You can't do certain things because they're tempoing you, right? So everything becomes vanilla at that point. Becomes vanilla. The defense becomes vanilla. The edge rushers are a little tired. The interior linemen are a little tired. So, bad things can happen, once an offense actually tempos you. And, you see guys with their hands on their hips. You see guys, really struggling to, be as effective or as play with as much intensity as they would if they weren't.
Yeah, I think you saw that a little bit on Sunday in that win over the Jags, and we'll see if the Broncos continue to do that moving forward when they take the field the next time, which will be on November 13th against the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. Stick around when we come back. Brandon kind of hinted at it. Is there one area on this defense that is cause for concern as the Broncos get set to play a guy like Derrick Henry? We will talk about that and much more. Plus, we'll hand out some grades next, right here on Upon Further Review with B. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Welcome back to Upon Further Review with P. Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Glad to have you with us on a Victory Monday as the Broncos beat the Jags 21-17 over in London. B. Marsh, you played in Jacksonville. How do you say the team mascot? Like, not the actual name, but how do you say the long form of Jags?
Of Jaguars?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Say it again.
Jaguars.
Okay, see, so the reason I say that, no, listen, the reason I say that, I got so many emails this week that I stopped saying it because I add an I into the word. I say Jaguars, and so it's Jaguars. But I've been working on it mentally, and then I just cut it short because I was so tired of getting emails from viewers who were like, why does Michael Spencer add an I to the word, blah, blah, blah.
So you're saying Jaguars?
Yes.
Jaguars. Okay.
Yeah,
no,
not Jaguars. And then the car is the Jaguar. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I'm not going to sit there and the Denver Broncos play the Jacksonville Jaguars today in London. Wait,
is the car the Jaguar? Is that the Jaguar?
Yeah, that's how they pronounce it.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, so I'm totally in my head about how you say the mascot for the Jacksonville football team. So that's why I just keep calling them the Jags.
The football team.
All right, I just had to get that off my chest. Something else I got to get off my chest. Last week over in London, George Paton meets with the media, right? And you got to remember a couple things here. George Paton was not hired by this ownership group. George Paton hired Nathaniel Hackett. George Paton paid Russell Wilson a bunch of money. And so far, those last two things have not turned out the way that George Paton expected them to. So George Paton's asked about Nathaniel Hackett, and he says, Nathaniel is under unprecedented amount of scrutiny because we've played so many primetime games. And I'm like, no, George, Nathaniel's under so much scrutiny because he's been so bad, right? He was basically saying if people stopped watching, they wouldn't realize how bad Nathaniel Hackett has been. So let's just turn off the television. Let's stop watching Broncos football so that our head coach doesn't get scrutiny for being really, really bad through the first, at that point, 7 games of this season. It just boggled my mind, Brandon, and I know that he has to come out and defend his guy because in the process of defending his guy, he is defending himself and the decision that he made to hire Nathaniel Hackett. But I tweeted at one point during the first half of that game against the Jaguars, that George Payton would appreciate if we turned off our televisions so that we wouldn't realize how bad Nathaniel Hackett has been so far today. It just made no sense to me, and I needed to get that off my chest. It felt like the perfect forum to do that, and so thanks for letting me vent on that.
I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? Because first of all, it sounds like you're making excuses for why the team has been bad, why the offense has been bad. And my thing is, if that's the case, then how about you have that same energy for all the players? You're not going to say anything about Deshaun Williams or just Josie Jewell, or let's say Russell Wilson's having a bad year, or anybody else. You say that about the coach, okay? But the players just get cut, they get fired.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So have that same energy for us, right? When you decide to put us on the chopping block, because we've had all these primetime games and things aren't going the way that you would imagine or that we would have imagined. But see, I don't like that. I don't like that. Let's not make excuses. It's not about look. This is the Denver Broncos. Okay, the franchise is a cut above, right? We're almost like the cream of the crop when it comes to NFL football franchises. That's why we have prime time games. That's why we have high expectations. This is not the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Houston Texans or the Tennessee Titans or anybody. The Denver Broncos just have higher expectations. So it is what it is. Let's not make excuses.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's talk about this run defense, Brandon, because this defense has been really, really good. But I'm a little bit concerned about this run defense. Yesterday against Jacksonville, they gave up 191 yards. Travis Etienne had himself a heck of a day. You go back, and this has kind of been a theme, and they've kept it in touch, and respectable, so to speak. But when I look at this upcoming schedule, and a game against Tennessee and Derrick Henry, a game against the Raiders and Josh Jacobs, who already ran for 144 yards against you earlier this year, am I right to be concerned about this run defense and where they are right now? And are we being a little bit too nitpicky because the defense has been really good?
I think we are being a little bit too nitpicky. I think we are. It is what it is. Because the expectations are so high. This Broncos defense, they have to do everything. They have to deal with turnovers. They have to deal with 3 and outs. We are definitely nitpicking the Broncos defense. I understand where you're coming from, the cause for concern, but at the same time, this is still a top 3 defense in the NFL. Holding people to 16, 17 points per game. They're holding up there in the bargain, as I continue to say. Giving up 6 yards per carry is not ideal. Thank God we won the football game, but when we lost to the Raiders, because like you said, Josh Jacobs had 144 yards, right? That's part of the reason we lost, okay, amongst other things. But what I'm saying is, I think we are nitpicking them. They can get some help with sustained drives, right? With some rest on the sideline, they can get help, right? So I'm not trying to deflect, because at the end of the day, we have to stop the run, okay? In college, my coaches say we have to run to win, right? Run to win. And that meant actual conditioning, but that meant running the football to win the football game, all right? So, as a defense, the main goal is to stop the run, okay? So, there is a little cause for concern, but I think we're nitpicking.
Well, and what's crazy, too, and you kind of hit on this, is like it feels like this defense is allowed one mistake a game, and sometimes even that's too many. You know what I mean? And so they're allowed one mistake per game, and that's it. That is all you can make. And you look at that Jacksonville game, their only 2 touchdown drives came from the 37-yard line and the 47-yard line. So they started in Denver territory on both of their touchdown drives. That tells you how good that defense has been. And that when they're backed up, okay, yeah, look, like you can allow 47 yards on a drive if the drive starts at the 20-yard line, but I mean, it's almost like we're asking too much of this Denver defense, but I do think that that's something to watch, is that running game and how it evolves, specifically on the defensive side of the football, and whether or not that will be an issue heading into the next couple of weeks. And I think you're right. If this offense can do its part and stay on the field and get some sustained drives, that will certainly help the defense in the running game, because they will not be on their heels and they will not be gasping for air when they play these teams that they have on the schedule coming up. All right, let's jump into today's report card. Today's report card brought to you by the Colorado Lottery. Play CBS4, pick the score for your chance to win $1,000 in scratch-off tickets. Enter at cbscolorado.com/contest. Professor Marshall, who are you giving a grade out to today?
Man, I'm going to my fellow LB, Josie Jewell. Coming back off his knee injury, He ended up with 2 tackles for loss, 9 tackles. He led the team again. He's showing why they brought him back. Josie Jules is a hell of a player, so I'll give him a B.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. I think Josie did a really good job in that game on Sunday, and he and Alex Singleton have made for quite the nice pair there at inside linebacker for this Broncos team. I'm going to go to the offensive side of the football. I'm going to hand out an A to Greg Dulcich, and that might be me grading on a curve here, but I really like what Greg Dulcich has done. He led this team in receiving yards with 87 on just 4 catches, almost had a touchdown. And every game, Brandon, his yards have improved. And what you're seeing is a guy who just has this ability to get open and to find ways to get open. And it's only been 3 games. And for a guy who missed a lot of training camp and who started the season on IR, he has done a really good job of gaining the trust of Russell Wilson. And I think you're starting to see that. And I'm with you. You touched on this earlier. I think his growth is going to be a lot of fun to watch. He's basically kicked Albert Okwuegbunam off of the team and off of the field because he's been a healthy scratch over the last 3 games. I think Greg Dulcich is going to turn out to be a really, really good draft pick for this Broncos football team. That's at least the early returns through the first 3 games of his NFL career. No,
you're right. Like you said, I mean, he kicked him not even the field, but I'm sure the team. It's crazy. He doesn't even – it's not like, you would think that they would pair those two. Right, put him in 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets or anything. No, he is not even getting any runs. So, it's definitely some stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know of. But the guy looks like he could be, become, another great tight end in the AFC West. Yeah. Right now there's 2 great ones. Okay, Darren Waller, Travis Kelce. The Chargers have a really good one as well. He's playing really good this year. Mm-hmm. But Dulcich looks like he'll be in good company if he continues to play well. Yeah, I think he's got to improve that blocking, and that'll keep him on the field, a little bit more. That's the one area that was a concern when he came out. But what he's doing in the passing game is certainly making up for that and covering up for any deficiencies that he might have there. When we come back, it is time to zoom around the league. We'll tell you what stood out to us and caught our eye from yesterday's slate of games, plus a revenge game in fantasy football. Upon further review, Kumar and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy, continues right after this. Travel consideration is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store. Back on Inside upon further review of Marsh and Michael, presented by Underdog Fantasy. It is time for us to zoom around the league. Zoom around the league brought to you by Zoom Care. Visit zoomcare.com to learn more about their Beyond Better urgent and primary healthcare clinics in Denver and in Boulder. Marsh, you're about 10 minutes away from the Raiders facility there in Vegas. What in the world is going on? Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with this team. They're up and down. They played the Chiefs tough. They look like they're, going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Then they just lay an egg against the New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr had 100 yards passing. Josh Jacobs was on a tear rushing. And I get it. Sometimes you have off games, but it looked like it was, I don't know what was going on. I'm not sure what's going on, going through Devontae Adams' head right now. Did he feel like he made a mistake? I know he's swimming in money right now, so he's probably good on that front. But I wonder if he's missing A-Rod a little bit.
I think they're both missing each other.
Yes.
Right? Like A-Rod's missing him, and he's probably missing A-Rod. And this notion that, he and Derek Carr played together in college and it's going to be great. And I was bought in. I thought for sure, okay, I thought the Raiders were going to be legit, and that has not panned out at all.
Not at all. It doesn't look promising. I wouldn't be surprised if A-Rod tries to figure out a way to get out of Green Bay next year. I don't know if it'll happen, but I guarantee they'll text each other on the side, saying
A-Rod going to try and force his way to Vegas, you think?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, he should do something because he's clearly struggling as far as on the receiver front in Green Bay. It's not looking good.
Well, and part of the problem is they put all their money in his basket. You know what I mean? And so you went all in on the quarterback and thought he was going to win you a bunch of games. And that's really tough when you're playing 1 versus 10 or 1 versus 11,
It's a team game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I was looking, I do some betting for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah,
And I was looking kind of at the halfway point of the season, and I was like, Broncos over 10 wins. Well, that's probably not going to happen. I had the Raiders over 8 wins. I was like, oh, that's probably not going to happen either, So there were some other futures that I think are going to pan out for me, including maybe, perhaps, Kyle Shanahan to win Coach of the Year. I really liked that bet. And wow, I really liked what I saw out of the 49ers yesterday when they went to LA and beat the Rams. And Christian McCaffrey, my goodness, the hat trick, right? A rushing touchdown, a passing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown on a beautiful grab in the end zone. Brandon, I think that this trade is going to be great for both Christian and for the 49ers, because I think it adds another weapon. And when you got Kyle Shanahan able to draw stuff up for him, like what we saw yesterday, it adds such a dynamic ability to that offense. And then for Christian, he doesn't have to touch the ball 30 times like he did in Carolina, because they've got so many playmakers. I really, really like what I'm seeing out of the 49ers. And then there's some mental block to where the Rams can't beat these guys in the regular season. It really is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Rams be getting punked, okay, by the 49ers all up and down the field through every regular season game. I don't know what's going on, right? But like you said, I think it's going to be great. It's going to prove to be fruitful for, Christian and the 49ers. Like you said, Christian doesn't have to touch it 30 times a game. He can stay healthy. One of the knocks on him is, can he stay healthy? But he was everything in Carolina. They had to give him the ball 30 times a game just to even stay in the game, and they wouldn't always even win it, So, he's such a Swiss Army knife. He can be the bell cow back, but he can be a gimmick guy as well. You have him and Debo, and it's so many different weapons in San Fran. I'm actually really happy for the kid. I met Christian, a couple times. Once on his, I think his top 75 visit, top whatever visit in Denver. I would love to have him in Denver. We end up getting Philip Lindsay, and that's cool because he played great.
Yeah, the other Colorado kid, yeah.
Yeah, he played great, but at the same time, man, Christian is he's all world. He's on another level, so I'm happy to see it.
When you said you met him on a visit, I was like, Christian McCaffrey visited Nevada?
Oh, no way.
I mean, no disrespect, but that was my first thought when I was like,
no way.
Interesting. Yeah. All right.
No, trust me. I don't take any disrespect because I understand. Trust me, I understand. It's funny. It's funny. I got a quick story. You know the name Prince of Makamura, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I went on my visit to Nevada with Prince of Makamura, right? And I wasn't necessarily sure who he was until they said his name, and I started doing some research. But okay, he's a pretty good recruit. He had Nebraska offered him and different things. He ended up going to Nebraska. So we're sitting in the locker room on our recruiting trip, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, you think about coming here?" He said, "Man, hell no, I ain't coming here." He said, "What about you?" I said, "Man, hell no, I ain't coming here." And then, lo and behold, I end up in Nevada because it was either Nevada, Colorado State, so I just chose Nevada.
So was he just there like to go to Reno and for the trip?
He was on the trip, like on a recruiting trip.
No, that's what I'm saying. But if he knows he's not going there,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just took it, just to take it. Maybe because I think his friend from his same high school was on the same trip, so maybe it was like, let's go together, But I don't know why I was fronting. I didn't need to front, I mean, I didn't have that many offers, I mean, I don't know. I was tripping.
I love that. I love that story. I appreciate you sharing that. Hey, one more thought on zoom around the league. When you're a defender, like you are, you got defense in your blood, right? Yeah. What's going through your mind when you're seeing a shootout type of game like what we saw yesterday between Carolina and Atlanta, or between the Dolphins and the Lions? Like, are you sitting there like cringing? Because I know your background's on that side of the ball, but you probably have some of those guys on your fantasy team too.
Yeah, I do. Exactly. So I'm an avid fantasy player now. So I get excited watching these types of games, but from the defense perspective, I'm like, what's going on? Heads are scrambling. We're trying to figure out, why can't we stop this team? We need to stop. We just need one stop. Okay, let's get one stop. So I've been in those games, though. I've been in those games where it's like, we can't stop them. They can't stop us. And all we're begging for on the sidelines, the defense, come on, guys, let's get one stop. We just need one stop, So it's tough, man. Those games are tough because it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch though, back and forth, and then the penalty late in the Atlanta Carolina game, they missed the extra point, go to overtime, wild sequence of events there, and then the Dolphins Lions. Ooh, that was crazy. Cowboys put up some points yesterday too.
Oh my God!
In their game against the Bears, yeah, they looked legit and did it without Zeke, by the way. Oof, that's impressive. That is impressive. Cowboys, Eagles, 49ers. This is going to be a fun race to the NFC there. All right, let's jump into last week's fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Really, really tight matchup between Team Marshall and Team Spencer yesterday, or last week, I should say. We had the Monday night and the Thursday night. Finally, after 3 straight weeks of just getting it handed to me, I was able to bounce back with a victory, 59.82 to 55. It was a really close matchup, B-Marsh. And we've got another great matchup this week as the Bengals visit the Browns tonight on Monday Night Football in Cleveland. B-Marsh, you got pick number 1 this week. Who are you going with number 1 overall pick between the Browns and the Bengals?
Oh, man, you got to go with, the best running back in the league?
Yeah.
Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
Got to go with Nick Chubb.
I was thinking you might go Dearness Johnson, number 1 overall. I saw him on the list, and I was like, oh, hey, there's a blast from the past. Yeah, no, Nick Chubb, number 1 overall. That makes sense. I'm going to go with Bengals running back Joe Mixon as my second pick, or my first pick overall. And then with my second pick, I'm going to go with T. Higgins. This is a bit of a personal play for me. I actually covered T. Higgins when he was in high school, which makes me feel old. But shout out to T. Higgins. Shout out to Oak Ridge, Tennessee. I'm going T. Higgins with the number 3 overall pick in this draft.
Oh, he's from Tennessee.
Yeah, he grew up in Tennessee, originally committed to Tennessee, and then changed his mind, went to Clemson, and that was a wise decision on his
part. Yeah, 100%. He didn't have Malik Hooker then, so
no.
Hooker. So I'm going with probably top 3 route runner in the NFL, Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm going with Tyler Boyd, who seems to be a big play this season.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like those 2 receiver pickups for you. I'm going to go with Hayden Hurst, the tight end, with my next pick. And then I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt. I'm hoping that Nick Chubb has the big runs, and maybe they give it to Hunt to punch it into the end zone once they get inside the red zone. We'll see what happens.
Do that often.
Give me Kareem Hunt. Last pick, B. Marsh, who you got?
Man, I'll go with Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
I'll go with Peoples-Jones my last pick.
I like that. I like that play a lot. All right, so team rundown, Team Marshall. You got Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Tyler Boyd, and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Team Spencer, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, and Kareem Hunt. And it's Brandon. It's funny, we were talking, like, typically you see Bengals, Browns, and you're like, oh, they don't got any playmakers.
Yeah.
They got some playmakers.
All over the field.
Yeah.
I think
it's going to be a really, really fun matchup. A reminder, no show next week because of the bye week. We will take the week off as well. We will be back with you November 14th. That is a Monday after the Broncos pay a visit to Tennessee Titans, and we recap what should be a good game. See if this Broncos offense can continue what they got started in London, see if they can bring that back to the States, and hopefully score some more touchdowns on the offensive side of the football in that game against the Titans. All right, that is going to do it for this week's edition of Upon Further Review of B. Marsh and Michael. From my partner, Brandon Marshall, our producer and editor extraordinaire, Kevin Harper, I'm Michael Spencer. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on CBS News Colorado and wherever you get your podcast. Upon Further Review of B. Marsh and Michael, presented as always by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store.